Welcome back to Week in Prime. I'm Robinson Okenye. Now, on 22nd September this year, right here on KTN, we exposed what we called a costly swindle, a dam project, Grand Falls, that was suddenly axed by the National Treasury in early July 2025. Their reason? That the proposal didn't tick the boxes under the Public-Private Partnership Act. However, just 2 days later, the Treasury fired back, accusing us of misreporting the facts. But here's the shocker. This single decision may cost Kenyan taxpayers over 300 billion shillings. So tonight, we ask a simple, uncomfortable question. Who's lying? Here is Herman Kamariki with Face the Facts.
On 22nd September this year, right here on KTN, we exposed what we called a costly swindle, a dam project, the Grand Falls, that was suddenly axed by the National Treasury in July this year. The reason that the proposal didn't tick the boxes under the Public-Private Partnership Act. However, just 2 days later, the Treasury fired back, accusing us of misreporting the facts. But here is the shocker. This single decision may cost Kenyan taxpayers over 300 billion Kenya shillings. And so tonight we ask a simple, uncomfortable question. Who is lying? I'm Herman Kamariki, and this is Face the Facts. In paragraph 2 of the Treasury's letter, the Treasury says, and I quote, "A project development agreement was signed between the National Irrigation Authority and GBM Consortium." But scroll down to paragraph 4, and there it says, no such agreement was signed. And it gets murkier. The Treasury says it received GBM's project report on 31st of July 2024, but sat on it for 12 months, only acting on it in July 2025. Internal documents from National Irrigation Authority state the opposite, that GBM's proposal met all standards. That is feasibility, affordability, value for money, and so. Let's look at another scenario here. Let's trace the paper trail, and it's extensive. Let's begin with the first one here, the letter dated on 30th July 2024. This was signed by the National Irrigation's CEO, Engineer Charles Mwasia, and it was addressed to Ephantus Kimotho, who is the PS. And in paragraph 3, it adds, the project is ready to proceed to the next stage to advance Kenya's development agenda. The second evaluation report that was dated on 16th of September 2024, again from Mwasia, recommends onboarding KenGen as joint contracting authority, just as Treasury earlier advised. But suddenly, the script starts flipping. On the 19th November 2024, Treasury PS Chris Kipto writes to Irrigation PS Kimotho. The letter was received and stamped on 22nd November, and the message read, EDF Energy Giant has submitted a rival proposal. Now, despite earlier instructions not to consider EDF until GBM's report was reviewed. Now, even more curious, EDF's own letter dated 5th May 2023 reveals their proposal stems from a meeting in Paris between President William Ruto and EDF Senior Vice President Valerie Levko on 24th January 2023. That letter reads, in part, and I quote, following the meeting between His Excellency President William Ruto and EDF Senior Vice President Valerie in Paris, a proposed joint development of electricity and water supply was discussed. And now, Treasury denied such a meeting. They said it never happened, and now the letters are here. So who is telling the truth? Now, even after Treasury's intervention, the National Irrigation Authority continued its analysis. In a letter dated 31st January 2025, National Irrigation Authority stated that EDF's proposal was far behind GBM's in development. It read, and I quote, compared to GBM, the EDF proposal is at a very nascent stage. EDF will require at least 12 months to reach GBM's current progress level. It adds that EDF's documents did not meet the requirements of Section 43 of the PPP Act. National Irrigation Authority also warned that opening competitive procurement would delay the project by at least 2 more years. The authority then laid down 5 options for the way forward. Option number 1, they said, allow GBM to proceed to negotiations. Number 2, restrict bidding to GBM and EDF. And 3, pair up the 2 farms. And 4, allow parallel development. And now 5, they said, open the project to full competitive procurement. Now, after weighing all these options, National Irrigation Authority, which is the contracting authority, concluded and said, considering the merits and demerits, we recommend option 1, which was to allow GBM to proceed to negotiations. So the big question is, what criteria did Treasury use? That is what we need to answer before you tell us we are misreporting facts. The project was to be implemented by GBM. This according to the documents and even the links you can find on the UK's website. The GBM was a UK firm. Then comes 2023, and a new deal is also floated in France with EDF. So the question is, how can 2 foreign governments both believe they have been promised the same multi-billion project? And more importantly, what happens to millions of Kenyans across 12 counties who are counting on Grand Falls Dam for water, food, security, and power? Now, GBM has filed a formal petition with the PPP committee. They have named the PPP Directorate, the National Irrigation Authority, the PS for Water and Irrigation, and the National Treasury as the respondents. The hearing was supposed to begin next week, but according to our investigation, we have also noted that this hearing might not go on because the PPP committee is not well constituted. There are only 2 members of that committee, and they're supposed to be 7. And so they lack the quorum. This leaves this country with 2 options. Either GBM goes to court or goes for arbitration. We will be watching not just for the verdict, but for the truth, because one thing is certain here. Either we at KTN have twisted facts, or the Treasury has something to hide. One of us is being dishonest. And if you have been watching closely, you already know who that is. I'm Herman Kamariki, and it's time to face the facts.